I'm Lindsay, and I cover instructional design, e-learning development, and all things online teaching and learning. All right, so UDL identifies 3 classes of neural networks that should be addressed when designing instruction. I'll just put the 3 up on screen. These are all neural networks. So the way the brain works is that there's actually thousands of different networks, and that's the way the neurons that make up your brain and your thinking are all wired together to make things happen. UDL identifies three types of those things and then gives us guidance on how to design instruction that will work for those networks. So the neural networks refer to the different ways that the brain processes information, and each network will play a distinct role in learning. So they identify 3 up on screen here. It's affective, recognition, and strategic. Why are we learning? What are we learning? How are we learning? So those are the 3 ways the brain works that we want to address. So a quick overview of these. The affective networks, you may recognize the word affective as being related to emotion, to motivation. This is why are we learning? I like to say a lot of the time, if learners are not paying attention, they are not learning. They have to be motivated to pay attention. So the affective networks are involved in emotional regulation, motivation, engagement. They are going to influence why we learn, including what motivates us and how we stay really engaged in the learning process. So we'll talk more deeply about how to address each of these networks, but basically the why of learning, it's kind of just good teaching in general, like get your learners really interested in the information, make sure that they are motivated to learn, they're paying attention, they feel good about it. If people don't feel good about the learning, they're not going to learn either. So emotions and motivation are really important. All right, recognition networks. This is the what of learning, like, what we're recognizing. This is, these are the networks that are responsible for how we gather and process sensory information. So what you see, what you hear, what you're reading, or what you smell even. They're going to help us identify patterns and understand content. So one way you can help people use their recognition networks to their fullest, even with their variability and how people's recognition networks work, is you can provide various formats for your content. So you could have a podcast, you could have a video, you could have an article. If they all cover the same content, it doesn't matter which one the learner chooses because they're going to get that same content in the end. All right, the last of the 3 networks under UDL is the how of learning. So strategic networks, that's the front of your brain. This is the good judgment part of your brain, or maybe not so good judgment part of your brain. Again, we're all very variable, but it's where you have your planning, your organization, and your execution. This network, it manages how we express and demonstrate our knowledge and skills. So this is like, what you're really using when you're writing an essay, solving a math problem, or making a presentation. A fun fact about the front of your brain actually develops from the back to the front, and the front is the last part of your brain to develop. It doesn't actually finish developing until people are about 25 years old. So think about all those like teenagers and people in their early 20s that don't make the best choices. It's not their fault. Their brains just aren't developed yet. So one way we can support learners' strategic networks is we can differentiate the ways that they can express what they know. So again, you're giving them choices and how they express it. They can write an essay. They can make a presentation. Maybe they could do, I don't know, something else. Let's say interpretive dance, but I guess we're getting a little wild if I say that. So those are the 3 main networks. And under UDL, the goal is to provide multiple means for learners to use each of these networks. So this is like the science that UDL is targeting, and here's how we can target it. And Sam would watch a webinar interpretive dance for learning. I wish I had a dance background. I would totally do that. All right, so for the affective networks, you want to motivate your learners so that they are ready to learn. And I just want to say that There is some overlap between each of these three networks and how we address them. It can also be very motivating when learners have choices in expressing what they know. So that would be the strategic networks. Giving learners choices in course content, let them choose where they want to read, watch, or listen, for example. And then strategic, let learners decide what format to use to show what they know. So again, it can be very motivating to choose your format. If someone told me I had to write a paper, I'd be like, eh. If you told me I could do like a recorded video, I'd be all thumbs up because that is a lot more engaging for me. I would like to plan that out, and that would be more motivating for me. So that's another way you can address the why of learning is by letting people have those kinds of choices. So in general, choices are great. And I know this is a perfect world scenario where you really give choices for each of these things, but as long as you're keeping these concepts in mind, you can always make incremental improvements in your teaching and, get there in the end. Do what you can with what you have.